humans are still squibbling around like a bowl of worms. Here's Lindsey Graham, particularly nasty worm, with his John McCain Society with Cotton Boy and their CIA operations, and just look at him literally repeat what Netanyahu said in front of Congress after 9/11. I have that clip too, where, you know, you can pressure him and put sanctions on him, but I'd rather just blow him up. He's just, war. The moth to flame. Oh, here it is.
Trump administration is going to have to make a decision here very soon about the Iran nuclear program. There are two paths to take. A military path where we help Israel deliver a decisive blow against Iran's nuclear infrastructure. I prefer that path. The second path is to negotiate with Iran to try to get them to abandon their nuclear ambitions. If that path is chosen, it needs to be limited in time. We should put it on the clock, and we should define what success looks like.
Put it on the clock. Like Netanyahu, what, at least 15 times addressed Congress and the UN, another 20 or so? Does it every year. He's been out of office since, 2000 or whatever. And, oh, they're 2 weeks away from nukes. We got to attack them now. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It's always 2 weeks in everything. Here's Netanyahu 20-something years ago in front of Congress.
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
The answer is categorically yes. The two nations that are vying, competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons, is Iraq and Iran. A third nation, by the way, is Libya as well. While no one is watching, under the cloak, is trying very rapidly to build an atomic bomb capability. The question that you ask, I think, is vital. It's important, and that is, what do you do about it? You have to dismantle the network, and the question is, do you dismantle all of it at once? No. The first thing you did after the wake-up call on September 11th was that you took on the first regime, the obvious regime. You removed the Taliban regime, and you scattered al-Qaeda, although it has not been completely destroyed yet. Now the question is, what's your next step? Knowing that 3 of these nations are developing nuclear weapons. This is not a hypothesis. It is fact. Iraq, Iran, and Libya are racing to develop nuclear weapons. So now what is the next step? I believe that the next step is to choose. It's not a question of whether you have to take action, but what kind of action and against whom. If I had to choose, should there be military action first against Iraq or first against Iran, I would choose to go after Iraq.
Gaddafi, on record, invested all his money in the West, let them all in, had no high-tech weapons. They set him up, gang raped him to death, and killed hundreds of thousands of people. It's total failed state. Iraq, once they got in, no WMDs, no nuclear program of any type. Now, Iran's had a nuclear program, and they got nuclear weapons. They got atomic bombs, bare minimum, probably a dozen. And they got delivery systems. And if Israel tries to take those out, there's a very good chance they're going to get nuked. And Israel is way more advanced. They'll destroy Iran. Russia and China have a defense deal with them. Nuclear war is a probability, not a certainty. They may just sit back and watch them get blown to bits. And that's part of the deal Trump's making with the Russians right now. There's a good chance the Russians are going to cut the Iranians loose. So you're getting tomorrow's news today here. It's already in the Israeli papers. Quote, Netanyahu's going to lure the U.S. into war and take control of Trump's agenda. He didn't lure in crap. He's out in the open running around cheerleading it. So Netanyahu's going to get us all killed. And and most of the Israelis know that. He only got like a 15% approval rating, but he used parliamentary manipulation to stay in power. And so, yeah, out of just not wanting to die, I just wish Netanyahu would knock it off. I mean, the guy is just a piece of work. Absolutely out of his mind. And you saw Gheddafi roll over to him, and for over a decade, and they literally just gutted that country, a serious war crime. Shame on Netanyahu.
Israel and America stand shoulder to shoulder in countering the threat of Iran.
Speaking after their meeting in Jerusalem on Sunday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu presented a united front on Iran.
We agreed that the Ayatollahs must not have nuclear weapons. And we also agreed that Iran's aggression in the region has to be rolled back.
The common theme in all of these challenges is Iran. It is the single greatest source of instability in the region.
Iran says it's enriching uranium for peaceful purposes. It has backed groups across the Middle East that describe themselves as the axis of resistance to Israel and U.S. influence in the region. That includes Hamas, the Hezbollah movement in Lebanon, and the Houthi movement in Yemen. Iran denies that it closely directs its proxies in their attacks, saying that they act on their own initiative. Over the 16 months since the Gaza war started, Israel has assassinated top leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah. Israel and Iran have exchanged limited retaliatory attacks. Israel launched its assault on Gaza after Hamas fighters stormed southern Israel, killing 1,200 people and taking more than 250 hostages, according to Israeli tallies. More than 48,000 people have been killed in Gaza, according to Palestinian health officials. Much of the enclave has been laid waste, and most of the territory's 2.3 million pre-war population has been displaced multiple times, humanitarian agencies say. Netanyahu thanked Rubio for backing Israel's policy in Gaza. He said Israel and the U.S. under President Donald Trump shared a common strategy in the Palestinian enclave, where a fragile ceasefire is in effect. Israel took delivery of a consignment of Mk-84 heavy bombs Saturday after Trump lifted a block placed on them by the previous administration of President Joe Biden. Later on Sunday, Netanyahu again praised U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to resettle Palestinians from Gaza.
Give them a choice, not forcible eviction, not ethnic cleansing.
Trump's call for Palestinians to emigrate from Gaza, including to Egypt and Jordan, has been widely condemned. Some critics say that amounts to ethnic cleansing. Trump has said that he wants the U.S. to take ownership of Gaza and rebuild it into the Riviera of the Middle East. Arab states are working to present an alternative vision for Gaza. The White House is still working on extending the 42-day ceasefire into a second phase. Trump's special Mideast envoy said Israel's cabinet is due to meet on Monday to discuss the issue.
Так по какой же причине вторглись и разрушили Ирак, убив миллион иракцев? Пусть наши американские друзья ответят вот на какой вопрос. Почему Ирак? За что? Бен Ладен иракец? Нет. Теракт в Нью-Йорке совершили иракцы? Нет, не они. Пентагон атаковали иракцы? Нет, не они. Было ли оружие массового поражения в Ираке? Нет, не было. Да даже если и было, то у Пакистана есть это оружие, и у Индии, и у Китая, и у Франции, и у России, и у Британии, и у США. Что, их тоже уничтожать будем? Хорошо, давайте развалим все страны, где оно есть. Иностранная держава оккупирует арабское государство и вешает его президента. А мы тут сидим в стороне и смеемся. Почему не проводится расследование казни Саддама Хусейна? Как можно повесить военнопленного, президента арабской страны и ни много ни мало члена Лиги арабских государств? Сейчас нет речи о политике, которую проводил Саддам Хусейн, или о наших с ним разногласиях. У всех у нас были политические разногласия с ним, равно как и друг с другом. За пределами этого зала нас ничего не объединяет. Почему не проведут расследование убийства Саддама Хусейна? Руководство целой арабской страны казнили через повешение, а мы здесь сидим в стороне. За что? Любой из вас может стать следующим. Может. Америка плечом к плечу воевала вместе с Хусейном против Хаменеи. Хусейн был их другом. Дик Чейни дружил с Саддамом Хусейном. Дональд Рамсфельд, будучи министром обороны США, когда те уничтожили Ирак, когда-то был близким другом Саддама Хусейна. А в итоге они его продали и повесили. Вы дружите с Америкой, хотя нет, я скажу мы. Мы дружим с Америкой. Но однажды она может сдернуть и нас.